You're listening to The Pilot's Portfolio, formerly called the Pilot Money Podcast. To learn more about the name change, join us in Season 2.
Now, in today's episode, we are talking about UPS and FedEx long-term disability insurance, how it stacks up against each other, how it stacks up compared to the rest of the industry. Focusing on the core plans, I think that's important because both UPS and FedEx are negotiating new contracts right now. As your union representatives that are negotiating these things for you or thinking about what they want in the contract for your long-term disability plans.
You're listening to The Pilot's Portfolio, the show dedicated to guiding professional pilots towards a future of financial success and stability. Fly along with your host, Timothy P. Pope, as he provides financial planning insights and answers to your burning questions, and dives into real-life stories from fellow pilots who share their successes and cautionary tales. The Pilot's Portfolio takes off now.
Well, guys, welcome back to another episode of Pilot's Portfolio. Timothy P. Pope here, certified financial planner and principal at 360 Aviation Advisors, where we focus on the financial planning needs of the professional pilot. And if you're new here to Pilot's Portfolio, welcome. This is the podcast where we focus on all aspects of personal finance for the professional pilot. Yes, we talk about investments, 401ks, retirements, NECs. From time to time, we talk about real estate, side businesses, and taxes, right? So we talk about all those things, but personal finance is so broad that we find that this show kind of zigs and zags to, just all the areas that is on your guys' mind. And so thus it's on our mind, right? Now, I will say today's episode is a direct feedback from listeners that we got. We got some emails. And so we've put together today's episode to respond. And so we'll talk about that in a moment. Do want to make a quick note here as we get close to the end of the year. You guys remember a few episodes ago that Beacon Relocation, they are the real estate team that helps pilots move across country and save money when you guys move by using their realtors. Now, they put out a deal throughout the end of 2025 that says, hey, if you just reach out to Beacon Relocation and let them know that you're thinking about moving in 2026, then you will still capture the increased discount for being a Pilot's Portfolio listener. So the info is in the show notes. But if you're thinking about moving in 2026, reach out to them, say, hey, thinking about moving, you'll get the increased discount for listening to Pilot's Portfolio. So wanted to throw that out there. Also, another announcement, we're planning for season 3 of Pilot's Portfolio. I'm going to spice it up a little bit. So not in this episode, but the next episode, keep an eye out, or an ear out rather, for an announcement. We'll do an all call. I think that's going to be pretty fun. So keep an ear out for that. Now, in today's episode, we are talking about UPS and FedEx long-term disability insurance, how it stacks up against each other, how it stacks up compared to the rest of the industry. One listener wrote in a little while ago and said, hey, the cargo side of the house has long been a destination for pilots with leading contracts. But in this most recent cycle, the passenger carriers, it seems, have leapfrogged, or at least on the compensation side, and probably some of the work rules as well. I am not as well-versed in you guys' work rules. I'll say I'm well-versed in your money and the benefits and all of that, but to some of the work rules, I am not. I will say this, as I went to go put this episode together, I realized that I may not have the latest and greatest union info on your supplemental insurance. So I'm going to focus on your core plans. I'll acknowledge and mention some of the union stuff, but I realize that I may not have the latest and greatest. But focusing on the core plans, I think that's important because both UPS and FedEx are negotiating new contracts right now. As your union representatives that are negotiating these things for you or thinking about what they want in the contract for your long-term disability plans, I think it's important for them to keep in mind what the rest of the industry has. And no doubt they will be keeping that in mind. Matter of fact, I did take a look at the FedEx 2023 TA that I've got to see. I just wonder, I'm like, hey, I wonder what information is in here about your long-term disability plan so we can kind of see where your negotiators' minds were and what you might have coming down the pike. And I was surprised. I got a 288-page document and it doesn't mention the long-term disability. So let's start with UPS, okay? So with UPS, you guys, if you lose your medical for illness reasons, you will get 66 2/3% of your pre-disability earnings for a maximum of 20 pay periods. 20 pay periods, that's 10 months, okay? That's not great. Most of the core disability offerings now go out to retirement age, so 65. So we're thinking about 65, not a 10-month period. You also got a 6-month waiting period, which is like, whoa, you definitely are going to need an emergency fund there because a short-term disability is not doing it. It's like, it's a couple $100 per pay period. It's just the short-term disability is not great. So you got this really long 6-month waiting period. We need an emergency fund. Industry standard these days is like a 60-day waiting period before you can tap into the company's loss of medical. All right. So they were thinking about that. Now you do have some union benefits that you can buy. You've got a 2-year option, a 5-year option, and you can select up to 60% of your monthly income, but there's a cap with it. Okay. So the cap is at $7,500 a month. So you can put them together, but I don't get excited about these benefits here. Now, the benefit of the union benefits is that they are tax-free. So you'll be paying those dollars with after-tax dollars. So if you go on disability, then you will not have to pay any taxes on the union plus-up benefits, okay? So that's what we've got for the UPS. On the FedEx, let's take a look at FedEx. There's a little bit more to go off of on FedEx here. And so FedEx has a core plan, and then you guys have a supplemental disability plan, and then you've got your union plan so that you can choose. Now, with the core plan, you get 60% of your pre-disability earnings, but it's subject to a limit, which is the IRS Section 401A17 limit. Okay, so for 2026, that limit is going to be $360,000 of compensation. So that means effectively that your core plan, you guys could receive 60% of that. So that's about $216,000. So effectively, that's about $18,000 a month, right? Now, here's the thing. The way that FedEx looks at pre-disability earnings is they do your highest 12 consecutive months in the last 36 months right before your disability. We like that. You guys have heard the show. You know that I love the look back period. You could have been killing it and then you slow down, maybe by your choice, just maybe there's changes in the industry and FedEx has slowed down, slowed your flying down, right? And so we like that 36-month look back period. Now the core plan, we get 60%, but the 60% only lasts for 24 months. And so, again, as I was just talking about UPS, the industry standard is till age 65. Now, that's where your supplemental disability benefits come in, because after the first 24 months, if you're still on disability, your supplemental disability benefits kick in, and it's going to reduce your disability benefit from 60% of your pre-disability earnings down to 50%. And you get that reduction down to 50%, but it does go out till age 65. You are still limited at that cap, the IRS 401A17 limit. And as we're just comparing it to passenger carriers, United is the only one with a cap. Everybody of the ones that I've covered in the past, like Southwest American and Delta. So United is the only other major with a cap. You guys have the 401A17 limit there. So when you think about the first 2 years and then the remainder, if you could get rid of that cap, that would be standout, right? I mean, because 60% of your income for the first 2 years and then 50% after that. Everybody else starts at 50 and then just goes.
Hey, pilot, are you looking to save 20% on the sale or purchase of your next home? Let me tell you about a friend of the show, Beacon Relocation. With Beacon's exclusive real estate benefit, you can save thousands. My family has actually used their services when we needed to sell a property that was multiple states away. Beacon has over 1,500 experienced agents providing outstanding service and expertise as they guide you through every step of the buying or selling process. They'll even connect you with a national lender who offers competitive rates and discounted programs. As a Pilot's Portfolio listener, you are eligible to receive 20% of the real estate agent's commission towards your closing cost on the sale or purchase of your home. Visit beaconrelocation.com today. Select Pilot's Portfolio via the Apply Now drop-down menu to activate your benefits and make your next move your best move.
Buyer credit varies in some states. Contact us for details.
Now, there are, you got your usual suspects in here about exclusions. So, hey, don't go commit a crime and become disabled committing the crime. Your policy is not going to pay out. But also you want to be mindful if you are crop dusting or skydiving, hang gliding, or, being the pilot of a hot air balloon. If you're doing those things and you get hurt, your disability pay is not going to pay out there. So now both the FedEx and the UPS, what I've covered so far, not the union part, but just the company's policies, these are going to be pre-tax, meaning you're going to receive your 60% or your 50% or whatever it is. You're going to receive that, and then you're going to have to pay taxes from those dollars, okay? The union options, of course, are after tax. You receive that money, no taxes are owed. The other thing with the FedEx benefits, there's like a long list of benefit offsets. You have your usual suspects, which is like, workers' comp or state mandated disability benefits or Social Security. If you're receiving Social Security because you're disabled, and by the way, if you are, that means your disability is probably pretty severe, as it's fairly difficult to qualify for Social Security income. But, thinking of the passenger carriers that have offsets like this, Delta comes to mind with workers' comp. So, hey, you got hurt at work, so the company's paying out in some capacity anyway, right, through their workman's comp claim. And so your long-term disability is going to be offset by what workers' comp is paying out. And then there's a couple states that mandate disability payments. So New York and California come to mind. I think there's a handful of others. Hey, if you live in those states and you're receiving benefits from the state, then the company's policy is going to be offset from that as well. This next one caught my attention though. And it says your benefits are going to be offset if you receive earned income from another employer or self-employment income. So I talked to a lot of pilots who have a side hustle, and let's say that you lose your medical. Okay, that's the best definition, because that means, hey, I can't fly an airplane, but that doesn't necessarily mean I can't work. So maybe now that I'm no longer flying, I can put more time and energy into my side hustle and it grows, right? And so when you think about that, there is a disability offset if your disability income and your other earned income or self-employment income exceeds your pre-disability pay. Now, here's the thing. What the company will do is I'll look and say, hey, what was your average compensation from the company? And then what was your average other earnings in the 12 months before disability? So if you had a side hustle and while you were flying, cool. We get to look at that income and include it to find what that average is. So then after you go on disability, if your disability payment and your, let's call it side hustle or other earnings payment exceeds your pre-disability payment, your disability payment is going to be offset. Now, there is going to be some wiggle room because remember, right out of the gate, you're going to get a 40% drop at FedEx because your disability payment is 60%. And then after 2 years, you're going to get a 50% drop. Okay. So there is some wiggle room for you to pour into your side hustle because now you have more time and for that to grow without you getting penalized there. So just keep that in mind. Both of these disability policies from UPS and FedEx can be used with other non-employer supplemental policies. Okay. So that's your union stuff. It's not going to be offset from those. So I kind of sprinkled this in as I was going, like, how does this compare to industry standard? Well, one on UPS, like we need longer benefit duration for sure. And we need a shorter elimination period, right? So as folks are negotiating your contracts, that's what you're interested in. You want out to age 65 and you don't want to have to wait 6 months for you to receive these benefits. For FedEx, we'd love to get rid of the 401A-17 cap. We'd love that and just have no cap. If you do that, maybe they'll go to 50% all the way. I don't know the numbers to say like, hey, how many FedEx pilots are making more than 360 for this to be an issue for everybody? Like how many people are going to want that, right? But it'd also be interesting to see like, hey, what phase of your career is disability most likely? Is it the older that you get, or is it fairly even across the board? That'd be interesting numbers to look at. I bet the retirement insurance team has those numbers. And then the other thing to keep in mind is like the passenger carriers are getting these really big NECs, okay? 17% NEC going to 18% in 2026. And as their pilots go on disability, they're continuing to get that NEC into their 401ks. You guys are not getting those double-digit NECs because you've got a pension. And so one thing to keep in mind as the team negotiates these benefits and tries to make them better for you and standard across the board with the industry is, hey, protecting, like, hey, are we making sure we're still getting contribution to the pension, making sure you still are getting NECs that you currently are receiving, right? You don't want to give any of those things up as you enhance your disability. So with that, that's going to do it for the FedEx and UPS long-term disability, how it compares to each other, how it compares to the industry, and some things to think about. Definitely want to give a shout out and thanks to Beacon Relocation for sponsoring this show and making this happen. And guys, if you're thinking about moving in 2026, give them a call. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining this episode of Pilot's Portfolio. If you found this information helpful, spread the word and share it with a pilot buddy. Or if you have questions and there's something that you would like to hear discussed on the show, send us an email. You can find the address in the show notes. For those of you who are ready to learn how we help professional pilots with their financial planning needs, schedule an appointment. Until next time, keep the shiny side up, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Pilot's Portfolio is hosted by Timothy P. Pope. Timothy P. Pope is principal owner of 360 Aviation Advisors. 360 Aviation Advisors is a registered investment advisory firm regulated by the state of North Carolina in accordance and compliance to the securities laws and regulations. 360 Aviation Advisors does not render or offer to render personalized investment or tax advice through Pilot's Portfolio. The information provided is for informational purposes only and may not be suitable for all investors and does not constitute financial, tax, investment, or legal advice. All investments involve a degree of risk, including the risk of loss.
Thank you for joining this episode of Pilot's Portfolio. If you found this information helpful, spread the word and share it with a pilot buddy. Or if you have questions and there's something that you would like to hear discussed on the show, send us an email. You can find the address in the show notes. For those of you who are ready to learn how we help professional pilots with their financial planning needs, schedule an appointment. Until next time, keep the shiny side up, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Pilot's Portfolio is hosted by Timothy P. Pope. Timothy P. Pope is principal owner of 360 Aviation Advisors. 360 Aviation Advisors is a registered investment advisory firm regulated by the state of North Carolina in accordance and compliance to the securities laws and regulations. 360 Aviation Advisors does not render or offer to render personalized investment or tax advice through Pilot's Portfolio. The information provided is for informational purposes only and may not be suitable for all investors and does not constitute financial, tax, investment, or legal advice. All investments involve a degree of risk, including the risk of loss.